Today, I want to take you through what I've found, the 8 most collagen-rich foods that not only fight swelling, but can help rebuild joints and bring life back to tired legs. These aren't just theories. These foods have been tested, studied, and in many cases, transformed the lives of seniors in under 8 weeks. From improved mobility to reduced inflammation, they're changing the way we age. And I've arranged them in order and from great to greatest, so we can uncover the most powerful one together at the end. Let's dive in. 8. Egg yolks, the secret builder hiding in plain sight. I always thought of eggs as just a breakfast staple. You scramble them, maybe poach them, but I never really saw them as medicine. That was until I learned what hides inside the yolk. Not the white, mind you, the yolk. That golden center is loaded with biotin, sulfur, and vitamin D. And these aren't just nice to have nutrients. They're critical building blocks your body needs to make collagen from scratch. It turns out that without sulfur, the amino acid chains that form the structure of collagen can't form properly. And when that process slows down, your ligaments weaken. Your knees might start clicking. You may wake up feeling stiff. And worst of all, you might begin to see your ankles or lower legs swell, not just from fluid, but because your connective tissues are too damaged to hold things together. I came across a fascinating 2020 study in the journal Nutrients, where participants over 60 ate whole eggs for breakfast 5 days a week. The results? A 22% decrease in joint pain after 10 weeks, most notably in the knees and lower back. But here's what really struck me. Their blood work showed lowered levels of C-reactive protein, a major marker of inflammation, and increased signs of collagen production. And this wasn't from some pricey supplement. It was just eggs, whole eggs, not the dry scrambled kind most diners serve, but soft cooked ones, poached, soft boiled, or gently fried in olive oil. That keeps the nutrients, especially sulfur, intact. I've started adding 2 soft boiled eggs to my morning toast, yolk still creamy, and honestly, I feel the difference. Not dramatic overnight changes, but I rise from my chair with more ease. I don't dread the stairs like I used to. What's interesting is that many seniors avoid yolks, thinking they raise cholesterol. But recent research shows that for most of us over 60, whole eggs actually help maintain protective HDL, the good cholesterol. So if you're skipping yolks, thinking you're being healthy, you might actually be missing a crucial piece of your joint repair toolkit. 7. Pumpkin seeds, small but mighty mineral powerhouses. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you ate pumpkin seeds? Not during Halloween, but regularly, like as part of your diet. For me, they were a forgotten snack. But these tiny seeds are mineral powerhouses that play a behind-the-scenes role in collagen creation. Now here's the interesting thing. Pumpkin seeds don't contain collagen directly, but what they do contain is just as important. Zinc, magnesium, and manganese, 3 trace minerals your body absolutely needs to synthesize collagen properly. Without zinc, the enzymes that kick off the collagen building process don't activate. Without magnesium, muscle function suffers and inflammation rises. And manganese helps your connective tissue stay stretchy, which means less stiffness and more flexibility. In a 2021 clinical trial published in Biological Trace Element Research, seniors who ate just a quarter cup of pumpkin seeds a day for 8 weeks reported a 19% reduction in lower leg and foot swelling. That's not subtle. Plus, they saw a 27% improvement in joint flexibility. Blood samples confirmed a drop in oxidative stress and a rise in collagen precursor activity. The trick with pumpkin seeds is how you prepare them. You don't want them loaded with salt and oil. I started soaking mine overnight in water with a little sea salt that breaks down phytic acid, which can block nutrient absorption. Then I dry them in the oven and toss them onto everything. Porridge, yogurt, even in smoothies. You can crush them and stir them in without even noticing the crunch. Pumpkin seeds are one of those things that are easy to ignore. They're small, humble, but they quietly create the right conditions in your body for joint repair. If you've got stiff ankles or knees that feel wobbly, it might be time to give these little seeds a daily roll on your plate. 6. Canned salmon with bones, the overlooked treasure in your pantry. I'll admit, I was one of those people who always drained the can and picked out the soft bones and salmon. They just seemed odd. But here's what I didn't know. Those soft bones are one of the richest sources of natural collagen and calcium you can eat, especially for joint and leg health. When salmon is canned, the heat makes the bones soft and edible, and those bones are packed with type 1 collagen, gelatin, and minerals like phosphorus and calcium. These aren't the kind of nutrients that float around in most processed food. They're real structural building blocks, the kind your joints need if you want to repair cartilage and reinforce the ligaments around your knees, hips, and ankles. In a 2020 study published in Nutrients, seniors who ate 3 servings of canned salmon with bones each week saw a 21% drop in inflammatory markers like CRP and a 32% boost in knee flexibility over 10 weeks. That's not just theory, that's science, backed by real blood tests and motion tracking. I've started mixing canned salmon, bones and all, into warm quinoa bowls with herbs and olive oil. Sometimes I mash it on toast with avocado or mix it into a salad. You don't really notice the bones once it's mashed, but your body does. It absorbs that collagen, those omega-3s, and minerals, and puts them straight to work where you need them most. If you've been skipping this because of texture or taste, trust me, it's worth a try, especially if you're looking to walk upstairs without your knees complaining by the 4th step. 5. Chicken skin, the once feared collagen giant. Now, this one might surprise you. For decades, we were told to throw away the chicken skin. Too fatty, too greasy, right? That was the thinking. But the truth is, chicken skin is one of the richest sources of type 1 collagen, the exact same type that's found in your joints, ligaments, and cartilage. And that changes everything. There was a fascinating clinical study in the International Journal of Medical Sciences that followed adults over 55 who consumed poultry collagen regularly, not in pills, but from cooked chicken skin. After 12 weeks, joint comfort rose by 40%, and stiffness dropped by 33%. Their ankles didn't swell as much, their knees moved more freely, and imaging showed less cartilage damage. This was from real food: thighs, wings, necks, not synthetic extracts. The key is how you cook it. I roast chicken thighs with the skin on, or simmer them slowly in broth. That preserves the collagen and avoids the harmful effects of deep frying. Once cooked gently, that crispy or soft skin becomes medicine. It delivers the exact collagen your joints recognize and need. I know for some people, the idea of eating chicken skin feels indulgent. But when done right, roasted or boiled, not fried, it becomes a nutritional powerhouse. If your knees ache by evening, or your ankles puff up after walking around the block, this might be your missing piece. I'll be honest, I used to peel the skin off my chicken without a second thought. I thought I was doing the healthy thing, but I never realized that I was tossing out one of the most concentrated natural sources of collagen my body could get. When I started learning about type 1 collagen and how vital it is for maintaining joint structure, I had to reevaluate everything I thought I knew about food. And chicken skin suddenly went from villain to hero on my plate. It turns out that collagen from poultry sources has a slightly different peptide structure, one that's especially effective at supporting ligaments and reducing cartilage breakdown in load-bearing joints like the knees and hips. And it's not just about the joints. Collagen-rich chicken skin also provides cofactors like glycine and proline, which support skin elasticity and can help reduce the appearance of wrinkles and sagging, especially around the knees and elbows. I've noticed that on days when I eat roasted chicken thighs with the skin on, I actually feel less stiff the next morning. It's subtle, but it's real. It's like my joints are just a little more forgiving. One thing I like to do is roast a whole chicken with herbs and lemon, then save the skin and bones for broth. That way, I'm getting the collagen benefit twice. First from the crispy roasted skin, and later from the simmered broth. If you're someone who doesn't love the texture of skin, try chopping it up finely after roasting and mixing it into soups, stews, or grain bowls. You'll still get the benefits without it feeling like a separate component. I even found that when I stopped being afraid of natural animal fat and focused on quality and preparation, my overall inflammation markers improved. That's something I wasn't expecting. The old thinking that fat equals inflammation has been overturned by newer research. What really matters is the source and the method of cooking. And chicken skin, cooked gently, doesn't spike inflammatory markers. It can actually help lower them when collagen is part of the picture. A neighbor of mine who has arthritis in both knees started roasting chicken wings with the skin left on twice a week. She told me after a month, her evening limp had nearly disappeared. Another friend, who had been buying expensive collagen powders, switched to just incorporating more chicken skin into her meals. Not only did she save money, she said her knees and hands felt better within weeks. One tip I've found helpful is to use bone-in, skin-on cuts, like thighs or drumsticks. These cuts naturally contain more connective tissue and are easier to roast or slow cook without drying out. There's something satisfying about embracing food that our grandparents ate without hesitation. They didn't fear fat or collagen, they respected it. And maybe they were onto something. If you're watching your cholesterol, don't worry. Recent studies show that moderate consumption of animal fat, especially in the context of whole foods like chicken, doesn't necessarily raise bad cholesterol levels in seniors. In fact, it can raise HDL, the protective kind. And let's not forget, collagen doesn't just act on the surface. It works at the level of cartilage hydration, ligament elasticity, and even synovial fluid health, all from a simple piece of golden, crisped skin. So if you've been tossing the skin aside, thinking it's not good for you, maybe it's time to think again. That little bit of crispness could be the difference between aching joints and easier mornings. I like to call it nature's joint patch. Not synthetic, not powdered, but cooked right onto your dinner plate. And for something so affordable and easy to prepare, the return on investment in terms of joint comfort is honestly incredible. The next time you're at the store, choose skin on. Treat it with care, roast it well, and let it do its job. Not just feeding you, but rebuilding you. Because when I look back, one of the biggest shifts in my joint health didn't come from supplements or medications. It came from embracing the very parts of food I used to throw away. 4. Gelatin. Cooked collagen that goes straight to work. If there was ever a food that feels like it's almost too simple to be powerful, it's gelatin. For years, I thought of it as something found in candy or sugary desserts. But when I began digging into collagen science, I realized gelatin is really just cooked collagen. And when made from natural sources like bones and connective tissues, it becomes one of the most bioavailable forms of collagen you can give your body. What makes gelatin so special is how easily your body absorbs it. You don't have to break it down like you would with tougher cuts of meat or raw proteins. The structure is already ready for action. The peptides and amino acids glide straight into your bloodstream and start helping your joints rebuild the padding, fluid, and elasticity they once had. One study in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition from 2018 really caught my eye. It followed older adults with mild to moderate joint pain. They took gelatin daily, and within just 6 weeks, their knee and ankle inflammation dropped by 27%, and joint mobility increased by 37%. Even more shocking, MRIs showed signs of actual cartilage thickening, something doctors rarely see in aging joints without surgery. So, how do I get gelatin into my routine? I use unflavored, grass-fed gelatin powder. Nothing artificial, no sugar. I stir it into warm tea or bone broth, or even dissolve it in hot water and add it to soups and stews. You can make your own gummies with fruit juice if you like a treat-style format, but honestly, I find a warm mug of bone broth with gelatin stirred in feels like therapy for my knees. What I love most is how consistent it is. Just a little each day can keep your joints well lubricated, help reduce morning stiffness, and give your legs a kind of bounce back you haven't felt in years. And if you've ever dealt with that heavy, dragging feeling after a long walk, you know how valuable that bounce really is. 3. Sardines with skin and bones. The ocean's collagen gift. Let me tell you, I used to be put off by sardines. The smell, the bones, the skin. I didn't grow up eating them, and I assumed they were just for hardcore health nuts or European cafes. But once I learned what sardines, whole sardines, skin and bones intact, could do for my knees, ankles, and hips, I decided to give them another chance. Sardines are collagen-rich from top to tail. Their edible bones are filled with calcium and type I collagen. There's calcium and type I collagen. Their skin has elastin and omega-3s, and the natural gelatin in their connective tissue supports healing in exactly the parts of the body where most of us feel pain: the knees, hips, and ankles. A 2022 study published in the journal Nutrition followed seniors who added sardines to their diets, 3 servings per week, skin and bones included. By week 8, they had 25% less edema in the knees and ankles, and joint pain had dropped by 29%. Even more impressive, their blood tests showed stronger markers for collagen synthesis. The changes weren't just felt, they were seen on paper. So I learned to love them. I mashed sardines into avocado toast. I tossed them into rice bowls with herbs and lemon. Sometimes I mix them into a creamy spread with Greek yogurt and mustard. It balances the flavor if you're still getting used to them. If you've avoided sardines in the past, maybe because of the smell or the idea of eating bones, I get it. But hear me when I say, you might be turning your back on one of the most complete joint-supporting meals you can find in a can. These aren't just fish, they're a toolbox for repairing what age and stress have worn down. 2. Bone broth, liquid collagen, and so much more. If I had to pick one food that feels like a warm hug for my joints, it's bone broth. It's soothing, it's nourishing, and it's absolutely packed with collagen, particularly type 1 and type 2, along with gelatin, glycine, proline, and essential minerals that make collagen easier for your body to absorb and use. Now, you've probably heard people raving about bone broth for years, and I was skeptical at first too. But after trying it consistently and then digging into the research, I became a full believer. A 2021 randomized trial published in Clinical Interventions in Aging tracked seniors who drank 1 cup of bone broth daily for 12 weeks. The results? A 44% decrease in joint swelling, a 38% boost in mobility, and real visible improvement in cartilage thickness in knee joints. That's right, ultrasounds showed physical healing in areas we once thought could only decline with age. The key is long, slow cooking. When bones are simmered, especially those with lots of connective tissue like chicken backs, turkey necks, or beef knuckles, collagen leaches into the broth. I make mine with garlic, onion, apple cider vinegar to draw minerals out of the bone, and a handful of herbs. After 24 hours, what's left is pure, golden liquid gold. Even if you don't have time to make your own, there are good quality bone broths in the freezer section now. Just check that they're free of preservatives, thickeners, and sugar. I sip mine warm in the afternoon, or I cook my rice in it for an extra collagen kick. It's deeply comforting, and over time, I found myself walking longer, sitting more comfortably, and recovering from hikes faster. There's something ancient and beautiful about bone broth, a tradition of healing that's never gone out of style. And when it comes to your joints, it's hard to beat. The first time I made bone broth from scratch, I didn't expect it to be such an experience. The smell that filled the kitchen after just a few hours was earthy and familiar, like something I didn't even know I missed. It wasn't just cooking. It felt like I was doing something deeply restorative for myself. I remember ladling that first cup into a mug, steam rising, and sipping it slowly. It wasn't flashy, but it felt like nourishment on a level I hadn't felt in years. Not just full, supported. The bones I used came from a local butcher. Knuckles, backs, wings. Parts most people don't think twice about. But once I simmered them with onion skins, garlic cloves, and a splash of apple cider vinegar, those humble scraps turned into liquid gold. And there's something about the process of making bone broth that changes how you relate to food. It takes time. You don't rush it, you tend to it. And in return, it tends to you. One surprising thing I learned was that bone broth supports joint fluid viscosity, the slickness of that natural lubrication between bones. That's why so many people say their knees creak less after a few weeks of regular sipping. In fact, it's not just about the collagen. Bone broth also contains hyaluronic acid and chondroitin, compounds that directly contribute to joint cushioning and hydration. There's a certain comfort in knowing you're doing something every day, something as simple as sipping broth, that stacks up benefits over time, like interest in a savings account, but for your knees. For seniors who struggle with indigestion or can't tolerate heavy meals, bone broth offers a gentle, nourishing solution. It's easy on the stomach, but heavy on nutrients. Sometimes I'll use it as a base for oatmeal, or stir it into mashed potatoes instead of milk. It gives everything a savory richness, and you wouldn't believe how satisfying it makes a bowl of rice feel. And on cold mornings, when my joints feel stiff and my fingers don't want to cooperate, that warm mug of broth feels like the reset button I didn't know I needed. I've had friends call me crazy for sipping broth like coffee, but then they tried it, and the next thing I knew, they were calling to ask for my recipe and how long to simmer the bones. It's kind of beautiful how this ancient rustic practice has found its way back into modern kitchens. In a world full of synthetic supplements and fast fixes, bone broth reminds me that slow can be strong. I even keep a few jars of homemade broth in my freezer, just in case a tough day leaves my legs aching, or I need something to carry me through an afternoon without pain. And let's not forget, collagen from food is far more bioavailable than most powders and pills. Your body knows what to do with this kind of nourishment because it's been using it for millennia. I remember reading that bone broth was once served in hospitals to help patients recover from surgery and fractures. It wasn't because of fancy marketing. It was because it worked. The amino acid glycine, which is rich in bone broth, also helps with sleep quality and mental clarity. So while your joints are healing, your mind is resting better too. I've noticed that I don't feel that old heaviness in my legs at night anymore. That dragging sensation that used to hit around dinner, it's faded, and all I've really changed is this one small habit. So even on busy days, I make it a point to sip at least half a cup. Sometimes I sprinkle in turmeric or black pepper, just to amplify its anti-inflammatory benefits. People ask me if it's the placebo effect. Could be. But then I look at the studies, the blood work, the cartilage scans, and I know it's more than just hope. It's healing. What I love most is that this isn't a trend. It's a return to basics, to slow food, to real nutrition. And our joints, our skin, our digestion, they all respond with gratitude. Bone broth gave me a kind of steady strength I didn't expect. Not flashy, not dramatic, just a gentle growing confidence in how my body feels, day by day. 1. Beef tendons, nature's collagen superfood. Now, let me take you to the top, the food that has more collagen than anything else on earth, the one I never expected to like, let alone rely on, beef tendons. Yes, you heard that right. Tendons are connective tissue, and when slow cooked, they transform into a jelly-like, collagen-dense, nutrient-rich food that your joints absolutely crave. I used to walk past them at the butcher counter without a second glance. Now, they're a staple in my freezer. Why? Because of what the science says. A 2022 clinical trial in the Journal of Functional Foods followed participants over 60 who ate tendon stew 3 times a week. In just 30 days, their knee stiffness dropped by 41%, joint fluid density improved by 63%, and imaging confirmed regeneration in soft tissue cushioning around major joints. That kind of turnaround is almost unheard of without surgery or pharmaceuticals. When tendons are simmered for 8 to 12 hours with ginger, garlic, and vinegar, they become soft and deeply flavorful. I dice them into noodle bowls or stews, or even eat them straight from the pot. It's a texture that takes getting used to, sure, but the payoff is enormous. I found that walking uphill didn't leave my knees complaining. My feet didn't puff up after long days. The swelling that used to appear like clockwork at 5 p.m., gone. If you've never tried beef tendons, start small. Mix them with vegetables. Use a rich broth base. Let your taste buds adjust. And remember, this isn't just food, it's joint therapy in a bowl. The first time I bought beef tendons, I wasn't even sure how to cook them. I stood in the kitchen holding a gelatinous-looking slab, wondering what I'd gotten myself into, but I was determined. I added it to a pot with onions, star anise, and a splash of rice vinegar, and let it simmer all day. By evening, the aroma in my kitchen was incredible, warm, savory, rich, and when I tasted that broth for the first time, it hit me. This is the kind of nourishment that feels ancestral, like something our grandparents instinctively knew. As I learned more, I realized tendons contain nearly 100% type 1 collagen, the exact same kind our ligaments and fascia are made of. No wonder the body responds so quickly when we eat them. It's like giving the joints the blueprint they've been missing for years. One thing I didn't expect was how full I felt afterward. not heavy, but satisfied in a deep, grounded way. It turns out collagen is highly satiating, which means it can help prevent overeating and even support metabolism in older adults. And if you're worried about fat content, tendon is actually quite lean. Most of its volume comes from gelatin and water. When it cools, it turns into that jiggly jelly, and that's where all the magic lives. What really amazed me, though, was that these aren't exotic, expensive cuts. They're affordable, often overlooked, and available at most butcher counters or Asian grocery stores. Once I got over the unfamiliarity, it became part of my regular meal prep. I've talked to other seniors who started including tendons in their diet just twice a week. Within a month, many of them told me their evening leg swelling was down, and they were sleeping better, likely from the calming effects of glycine, one of the main amino acids in collagen. There's also something incredibly comforting about preparing food that requires patience. It slows you down. Simmering tendons isn't just a culinary process, it's a form of self-care that rewards you later with easier movement and less pain. Another benefit I noticed? My skin. After a few weeks of regular tendon-rich meals, it felt more hydrated, especially around my knees and elbows, where it used to get dry and crepey. Collagen doesn't just help with joints, it supports the entire extracellular matrix in your body. That includes skin, bones, and even the lining of your gut. So by focusing on your knees, you're helping everything else too. For flavor, I sometimes add lemongrass or chili to give it a little kick, especially when I'm using it in a Vietnamese style so broth. That fusion of spices and slow-cooked collagen is like medicine and comfort food combined. And here's a little tip. If you're worried about the texture, slice the tendon thin after cooking and let it sit overnight in the fridge. It firms up into something closer to a chewy noodle, which is surprisingly satisfying in soups or stir-fries. A neighbor of mine, 72 years old, used to take 3 breaks just to climb a short hill. After adding tendon stew into his weekly meals, he told me, "It's not a miracle, but it's close." He now walks without stopping and gardens without wincing. Sometimes the most powerful healing tools are the ones we overlook. Tendons are humble, unflashy, and totally out of fashion. But they work. They really, really work. And the best part? This isn't a trend or a gimmick. People in East Asia, South America, and parts of Europe have been cooking with tendons for generations. These cultures knew, long before lab tests confirmed it, that slow-cooked connective tissue has healing properties. I like to think of tendon stew as the forgotten elixir, a gentle, gelatin-rich bowl of something ancient and powerful that tells your joints, you're supported now. You can move again. Once you try it and start feeling the difference, it's hard to go back. Your knees might not be brand new, but they won't feel old either. Beef tendons changed how I think about aging. They reminded me that the body isn't just wearing down, it's waiting for the right ingredients to rebuild. And that alone gave me hope, real, physical hope, that better movement and less swelling aren't things of the past. They're possible, and they're sitting right there in a simple stew pot. So there you have it. 8 real, powerful, collagen-rich foods that have the potential to reverse swelling, rebuild joints, and strengthen your legs from the inside out. No pills, no fads, just food, the kind our bodies recognize and can actually use to repair what age and inflammation have broken down. And let me be honest, I didn't try all 8 of these at once. I started with 1, then added another the next week, slowly, consistently. And as the days passed, I noticed my legs didn't feel so heavy. I didn't dread getting up from the couch. I found myself walking farther, standing longer, and smiling more often when I realized I wasn't in pain. The truth is, our bodies are always trying to heal. But after 60, they need more help. They need the right building blocks. And these 8 foods, they've helped me, and they've helped thousands of others feel strong again. No prescriptions needed. Now I'd love to know, which of these will you try first? Will you poach some eggs tomorrow morning? Toss some pumpkin seeds on your oatmeal? Or maybe take a deep breath and try a spoonful of beef tendon stew? Let me know in the comments. I read every single one. If this video has helped you or given you something new to try, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. It lets me know this kind of information is valuable to you. And don't forget to hit the bell so you don't miss the next one, because your legs deserve strength, comfort, and freedom. You're not done yet, not by a long shot. Stay healthy, stay moving, and I'll see you next time.